With all the pandemic scares going on, something that got very popular were UVC sanitizers. They came in a lot of varieties. They can be installed in your furnace to kill bacteria in the air, viruses, fungus, spores, all of that. Now generally, they are very dangerous for humans. You don't want to get the light directly on your skin or look at it. It can cause plenty of health issues. Now, usually, or traditionally, UVC lights come in the form of a tube, which I believe is basically just a fluorescent tube without the phosphor coating. The phosphorus coating is what converts it to visible, safe visible light. But something that got very popular was phone and object sanitizers. Something you'd put your phone in, turn it on, and it kills anything that's on the surface. Well, this one was available from Menards, and they were free after rebate. I'm like, free after rebate? There's got to be something going on with them. So I got a bunch of them because I'm not actually going to use them for sanitizing anything. Well, I wasn't planning to begin with. But there's a little more backstory behind that. Let's look at some of the claims on the packaging. Caution, do not expose your eyes and skin to the UVC light. I do believe it starts off with like glaucoma, I want to say. And just don't. Just don't want to do it. Here's a little graph of the UV spectrum, visible spectrum of it here. UVC is this range here, 200 to 208 nanometers. And says germicidal, most effective for sanitizing. There's also UVB and UVA. Our atmosphere blocks UVCs, C rays from coming from the sun, but lets in amounts of UVA and UVB. UVA would be more like your black lights. We're not going to get into all that. But UVC does kill bacteria, E. coli, fungus, and germs. That is accurate claim. Now this light claims to be UVC. We're going to test that in just a few minutes here. Now I have already taken one of these apart because I needed the parts for something, another project. This is 5 volt DC. You can also charge your device, and it claims to kill 99% of all that. So we're going to take this box of lies and toss it. Here is the sanitizer sterilizer. It's got the power button that also lets you select a percentage, which in my preliminary tests, all that did was increase the amount of time, not the actual output. There's constructions, as my son used to call it. 6-inch mobile phone, 5 volt, 1 to 2 amps. So there's little raised dots in here to keep the phone above to allow light to go underneath. And then you go like that, close it, turn it on, and it blasts your device with UV light. You can see there are 4 LEDs on that side, 4 on this side. Now remember, I said traditionally they use the fluorescent tube version of UV light. Oh, and there's 2 LEDs here, different style though. Plug it in and do that. Turn it on. Doesn't want to let me do that. Now, I don't know if you guys can tell, the light's on, but it shuts off when I open the lid. There we go. If I can do it at an angle, you can see it on. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to grab 2 things I completely forgot about. Okay, I'm back. Now, two things. I got a magnet and I have a UVC dosage card that can actually identify if there's UVC present, as well as if there is other ultraviolet light present. I left my spectrometer at my parents' house, so we will have to settle for the card for today. So we're going to open it up, light shuts off. I have a magnet, and there is a magnet over here at the top of the lid, and I figure the magnet is what tells it to turn on and off, so it must be a Hall effect sensor. Now, I'll put that there. I'll find the right spot. Oh, there we go. Let's get a piece of tape. Just tape it there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Won't be there long. I got that. Shut the lights off a bit. Ooh, now you're saying, hey, K-Man, you said UVC is bad for your eyes. Why do you leave the lid open and you're looking at it? Here's why. Got this special card. Now, you can see a few things happening here. Now, you see the word ultraviolet. That tells us when ultraviolet light is present, which it is. I'm not going to deny that. Now, above ultraviolet, it says UVC. You're not going to be able to see that, really. You might see it because it's shining through the backside. This will change when UVC is actually present. But, you know, I will admit there is a little bit of UVC. They had to, just so they couldn't, whoever's importing these couldn't get sued for false claims. And out of 10 LEDs, there is just one that is UVC. And I don't even know if you can see it, but it is this one right here. A single LED is UVC. Not just that, for it to actually even show up, now this card is actually fairly sensitive. I've tested it. I have an actual verified UVC germicidal lamp that I have on an old lamp holder without the shade on that I use for sanitizing rooms. If someone gets sick, I'll shove it in there when they come out, you know, just to get everything. And this card will show the UVC even at about 200 feet. I did it outside in the backyard at night one night. Nothing, nothing, still nothing, still nothing. We're about 1 inch or about 2.5 centimeters away, and boom, now it's just barely showing up. Get closer, barely showing up at about 3/4 of an inch or about 2 centimeters. At that distance and this intensity, you're talking to kill some bacteria or germs maybe a half hour at that distance. So anything that's within about 2 centimeters or 3/4 of an inch, yep, that distance from the LED. That's the only part. You're not going to kill anything underneath. Above, it's just not strong enough. And even right at it is barely strong enough to cause any trouble. You could stare at this thing for a year, you'll probably be fine. So, I would say false claims. Now in terms of UVA and B, yeah, that's pretty present, and it's actually very strong. So this is strong with the UVA and B. You still don't want to go staring at it for long periods of time, but in general, it's not going to really cause any trouble. Again, your club light, black lights, UV lights are going to be UVA. UVA is also common for curing UV curable glue. You'll see those infomercials with the glue pen. They put the glue down and then they use a little pen with a light, and that timer's up. and that causes the UV curable glue to solidify. So what is inside this thing? Big Clive, if you are watching, this would be a great little product for you to do a teardown on too, unless I hope I'm doing a good enough job. Gotta match you. I can use those someplace else. Let's not turn this into an episode of Nightmare on Elm Street. Just 4 screws in here. Perfect timing. I needed little screws like that for another project. What is the other project that I'm using these LEDs for? Well, it's my old Space Invaders machine. Got a 1979 Space Invaders cabinet with the backlit asteroid moon. And that currently has a UVA fluorescent tube in it to light up that moon. But I want to cut the power consumption from 15 watt down to about 1 or 2 watt and reduce a lot of cabinet heat up. So that's what I'm going to harvest these for. Okay, so they have a little cooling vent on the bottom, which is actually much needed because these LEDs are getting drastically overdriven. So here we go in here. There's 2 more screws holding the PCB board in. 1, 2. To be honest, it's actually very well built. It's just really disappointing that they skimped on the UVC LEDs. If all these LEDs were UVC, this product would be definitely worth it. It would work. It would actually do what it claims. Let's see. I'm going to bend these 2 out. Okay, just taking a look. Let's zoom in a little more. So what do we all got here? The power, it's using a micro USB. Of course, mostly obsolete at this point. Micro USB to power requires 1 to 2 amp input current. Now, why 1 to 2 amp? Because there's also a USB-C or USB-A port, so you can charge your device while it's in here. Unfortunately, there was no little cutout. It's kind of flawed because there was no cutout for the cable to go in. So the lid would be cracked open a little bit. So if it really was UVC, you'd be, and you were in the same room, you'd be hurting your eyes a bit. There's a tiny little speaker here. That's where you get your beeps. Looking at the top, there's the 2 buttons. There's 4 LEDs here to signify 100%, 75, 50, and 25% power, which is, it says power in the manual, but it's actually just how long it runs for. Now, how did this thing know that the lid was closed? Let's put it back down the way it is inside. That would be this right here. That's a Hall effect sensor. I'm going to have to zoom out just a little bit. This is a Hall effect sensor. And that can sense when there's something like a magnetic field nearby. And when that magnetic field gets close, it's basically like a magnetic switch in a way. So that's how it knows. That went into a slot right there. Let's get those screws on there. Now there's, so we got 2 LEDs on here. Now there's 2 strips of LEDs on PCBs on the side. One's got 3 wires going to it, one's got 2. Now, like I said, I already removed the other one. So instead of spending time doing that on here, let's just take a look at the already removed LED strips. Now, this one right here, pretty self-explanatory. It's got the 4 LEDs on there, little 4 diodes, and power. And this is just a 5 volt, although I'd probably say run it at about 3 volts. I'm just experimenting a bit, because at 5 volts this thing got hot. So I mean, for how limited this machine would have been running to sanitize a device, if it actually did sanitize a device, that'd probably be fine, just because it's not going to be a always on kind of thing. So they're overdriving the LEDs to get a higher output or put on a prettier light show. There are also 4 LEDs on this strip here, but one of these things is not like the other. And that would be focus. There we go. Looks like that's about as close as we're going to get the focus, or the zoom. This one right here is actually the UVC LED. Much different than the others. On top of that, also hard to see, both on the LED PCB and the power PCB here, that's not going to focus, has the UVC light listed as 6 volt instead of 5. So looking on the PCB for the power here, each side has multiple ports, so it looks like these could have been on either or, depending on where they soldered the socket in. But center pin is negative. This pin here is 6 volt, and this pin is supposed to be 5 volt. Now, I'm not going to do it now, but I actually tested the voltage, and they had it on this one. They had, excuse me, backwards. The 6 volt one was 5 volt, and the 5 volt one was 6 volt. So they were underdriving, according to what it appears, the UVC LED, and overdriving, at least on this side, the UVC A/B. Unfortunately, without my spectrometer, I don't have a way to measure how much of each UV type. Now my card here, these are awesome. You can carry it in your wallet. It's kind of neat. I'm sure some people in that nightclub in Hong Kong wished they were able to test the UVC or the UV lights before going in there. This happened maybe 8 years ago. A club ordered the wrong UV tubes, and instead of putting black light or UVA for that glowing effect that clubs love to have, they put UVC in and ended up giving everybody in the club sunburn and very itchy skin, painful eyes. I should look that up. I will link to where you can get one of these. They're not too expensive, less than $10. And it's been very useful. I originally bought this because I wanted to try and find the fake UV lights on Amazon because I wanted to replace my fluorescent tube UVC sanitizing light with a higher powered LED version. And it sure as heck was higher powered, 60 watt LED cob UVC light. And I say UVC because there was no UVC. It was a UVA. But most people wouldn't know. And how are you going to prove it unless you have some way to test? So there we have it. You know what? Let's light up. I'm not going to light those up, but here are the two LEDs from the front that were here. Took those off, and right now this is an old Motorola, not a Razor. It was the poor man's version of the Razor. That was from my old phone, a long time ago. It's probably a 20-year-old battery. This battery has about 3.2 volts in it right now. It's dying, and even at 3.2 volts, let's see, with the lights on, you guys can actually see the card a little better here. All right, I'm not, wow, it's reflecting already. All right, not showing it yet. All right, now I'm going to start aiming this UVA LED at the card. You can see how this is starting to show up there. Of course, auto exposure is going to start changing it a little bit on the camera. But you can see now it says ultraviolet. And I'm about 12 inches or a foot away from the card. And now you can check the intensity by matching what color the words, the box ultraviolet changes to with below it. So right now at a foot away, it's shown as pretty much very high. High to very high. I'm going to get a little closer. Yep, now it's very extreme. This is extremely bright. And this is only at about 3.2 to 3.5 volts, not even its full power. And I can tell you right now, this LED is also getting roasting hot. This one LED is enough to light up my living room with the lights out. And there we have it. That is the conclusion. So if you buy a UV sanitizer for any purpose, if it uses LEDs, there is a high chance, especially the cheaper ones, that it is a fake. It does not meet its claims. Now if it's something that has the fluorescent tube, this was actually at Dollar Tree, believe it or not. I got a whole bunch of these. Unfortunately, no USB connection. Uses 4 AAA batteries, and it sure sucks them dry and does not work well with rechargeables. And there's 2 fluorescent tubes in this one. Now this one, if it's the fluorescent tube, it's pretty much guaranteed to be UVC. No questions really asked. Because all the difference is there's no phosphor on the tube. And that's it. Gonna finish disassembling this and make stuff. It's gonna make stuff, yeah. Alright. Again, I will have a link to one of these UV dosage cards. Quantadose.com. Don't go there. I'll link to Amazon where you can actually get one. It's actually cheaper than their website. First time I ever noticed that there is some sort of serial number on there. Don't know what it's for. If you found this interesting, please like and subscribe. And I've been talking for 26 minutes. Bye-bye.